But if R.Kelly was sexually abused as a child, it is shame on us, and thus our collective silence, adulation, and even protection of R.Kelly 35 years too late is the byproduct of our collective desires to render the shame of such abuse in our communities as the personal province of demons and victims, but never the essential black body. But this is a way too literal rendering of our shame, and the reason why all 22 episodes of In the Closet cannot be dismissed, but even that is a too literal, or rather a too literary representation. And let me hang a bit on this R. Kelly thing, because Robert is, among other things, nothing more than a postmodern soul man, a figure in which we've invested so much, particularly as we consider this day, April 4th, 2008, exactly 40 years after Black Death visited Memphis, Tennessee. But as many mourned the murder of the quintessential race man, so did many mourn the death of the quintessential soul man, shot dead in a Los Angeles motel in December of 1964, or that other soul man, the one who prophetically asked, "What's going on?" murdered at the hands of his cross-dressing preacher father, kneeling 16 years after King was murdered in Memphis. Like James said, "Papa don't take no mess." Indeed, the male soul singer, the proverbial soul man, with his narrative devotion to love unrequited and spiritual redemption and possessing a cultural status that rivaled that of his race man. I mean, really, how many people listen to MLK Jr. versus James Brown? The soul man can easily be acknowledged as embodying the knowledge produced in the name of an unreconstructed masculinity, firmly planted at the crossroads of desire and fear, the secular and the sacred, blackness and Americanness, the deviant and the innocent. The soul man icons of the 1960s and 1970s congealed grand narratives of tragedy. Shot dead in a motel, shot dead by your father, shot dead in a game of Russian roulette, killed in an airplane crash, scorched by a pot of hot boiling grits, leaping naked out of an open window. I could go on. Narratives that were wedded to even more complicated personal demons, including the physical abuse of wives and girlfriends, sexual assault of younger female artists, sex with underage girls. These dynamics reflected the binary tensions of the foundational narrative of the soul music tradition, namely that this was the price that these men were damned to pay for offering their godly gifts for sale in the marketplace of the flesh. Their relinquishing of the innocent black body kneeling at the altar of spiritual desire, for the deviant black body kneeling at the altar of sexual desire. Like Marvin once said, it's something like sanctified. And yet, like Du Bois' notion of a double consciousness, such a binary misses the complexities of everyday life, where every decision made, every desire admitted, every pleasure pursued is not manifested at the mythical crossroads of heaven and hell, or more tellingly, the crossroads of incarceration and freedom. 4 decades ago, within secular African-American communities and quite a few black ones, soul singers were valuable commodities, particularly in relation to what we call the Chitlin Circuit, the network of leisure spaces that comprise what Devarian Baldwin now refers to as the foundations of a marketplace intellectual life, where, quote, black consumer practices in cities like Chicago converted acts of desire into a political and intellectual life, a distinction in defiance against traditional ways of life. Because blackness also spends, or rather blackness consumes, even as it is consumed. The proverbial soul man functions as a metaphor that embodies the knowledges produced in the name of black communities struggling to give voice to their desires and their demons, as they also strive for recognition as consumers and political agents. Often left unpacked at these crossroads is a notion of African-American innocence.